Good afternoon, everybody. I'm General Gene Renuart, the Director of Ops. The focus of today's briefing is going to be, this was an operation conducted by two task forces of the Third Infantry Division. They, in fact, had been south of the city and conducted a raid through the city, proceeding north to the Tigris River, and then continuing out to the west in the direction of the airport. As to why your colleagues were not able to see that from the center of the city, it was, I think, a clear statement of the ability of the coalition forces to move into Baghdad at times and places of their choosing, and to establish their presence really wherever they need to in the city. And those kinds of operations, I believe, will continue. At least one of the runways will be functional very rapidly. Most of the obstructions there. The airport gives us a fairly substantial area to operate from, and I believe we will continue to operate from that field. Whether we make it a main base of operation or not, time will tell. With respect to security on the airfield, the Third ID folks, elements of the 101st, have I think, secured the airfield to a fairly good degree. That does not mean that there's not a threat from artillery, from enemy forces who have continued to attack throughout the course of today to varying degrees and in varying sizes, but with no success. There are a number of sites on the airfield that we want to make sure we spend extra time to ensure there's not booby traps and those kinds of things, but we feel like we can operate on the airfield with ease. Sense of truth. As you know, on the battlefield, many times first reports are in some way inaccurate. And we were able to take advantage of superiority in the skies to prepare the battlefield. And as the land forces moved through, they still found substantial Republican Guard capability. And in many cases, those forces fought hard. But they were more isolated. They were not well organized. And I think that is a direct result of the combined arms team that prepared that battlefield before the forces actually moved into the area. Certainly through the conflict, we've seen a number of Republican Guard units in and around. The challenge with that were pockets of very intense fighting. As I mentioned, we had a task force that moved through the city made up of both Bradley infantry fighting vehicles and Abrams tanks. The fight through there was characterized by a number of irregular forces mixed with Republican Guard or Special Republican Guard infantry fighting positions, rocket-propelled grenades, nests of irregular forces and the technical vehicles that I described earlier, and air-to-air artillery weapons that were used in a direct fire mode against our forces. So 23 millimeter, 57 millimeter anti-aircraft cannons that were used in a direct fire mode against our forces. It was, as was reported, intense fighting in areas. On the other hand, in some areas, people were standing on the sidewalks waving to us. So clearly there is confusion in Baghdad. Clearly there is some chaos in terms of the command and control and ability of the military to defend in Baghdad. On the other hand, there are people who appear to acknowledge the presence of coalition forces favorably.
Or to surrender. Do we have any reports about the Iraqi?
As you know, the technology for broadcast is pretty sophisticated, and you can purchase satellite time on a variety of different corporation satellites, and so as to how they're still being able to broadcast, while I'm not technically proficient to tell you how that happens, I can say that it appears that there are a number of satellite companies who have sold broadcast time to Iraqi national television, and so we're trying to work in some way to encourage that not to happen. We have a capability to broadcast on the Iraqi Channel 3.
Is the problem which is the American